Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today we're going to be doing 3 Dollar Tree DIYs for Valentine's Day. And the first project we're going to start with a pizza pan, one of these laminated plastic bags that's in the Valentine's Day area, a few leaves from the lamb's ear that I get from Walmart, and I always keep my leftovers because you can use just one or two for different projects. Some of this pink burlap ribbon and some heart ribbon, some jute twine, and I got this roll at Walmart, but Dollar Tree carries the twine as well. And then just some wood hearts that I have collected and either taken off of old projects or just from the packs. Some Waverly chalk paint in white and ballet slipper pink. I'll be using the Silhouette Cameo to cut out some words, so I'm using black vinyl with the magic cover transfer tape from Dollar Tree, and then my weeding tool and squeegee. Some of these, well, 2 of these little adhesive pearls from Dollar Tree, and then the regular supplies of glue gun, scissors, wire cutters. I don't think I used the chenille stem. Oh yeah, I did. And a ruler to measure the area that we're going to put our words onto. So the first thing I did was got my pizza pan cleaned off and ready to paint, and I just poured my Waverly white chalk paint onto the pan and moved it around with my paintbrush. And this took, well, normally if you wanted a complete coverage, it would take about 2.5 to 3 coats, but I'm going to try and give this a wood look, kind of a shiplap kind of look, but with pink instead of your traditional browns and grays. So it didn't need the complete coverage, but I wanted some of it to be, kind of see-through. So the next thing I did while that was drying was cut out my little car from the bag, and I kept the hearts I might use those in something else, as well as the one on top of the car. We're going to replace that with some wood hearts, but I might be able to use that in another DIY. So just keep what you have. If you don't use it in the project you're working on, it could come in handy later. So I have a heat gun, and to speed up the process, I use that to kind of dry it, and it really does dry right in front of your very eyes. You can also use a hair dryer as well. A viewer told me that. So now I'm just taking my ballet slipper pink chalk paint and making some crooked lines. I'm kind of looking at the background of the bag, and it has pink planks on it. So I'm kind of copying it and doing these lines just by hand and trying to make them squiggly like wood would kind of look. And then I just took some of the pink and went in between, and I'm gonna just kind of blend it in and give it hopefully what I think is a wood look. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is in a DIY that I did before. It was in the winter series. I painted a pizza pan, and as you guys know, I'm not a good painter whatsoever, but one of my viewers was so sweet and said that it looked like it could be wood. And so all of my mistakes and the bumps and uneven painting job, she said it looked like wood. So I thought I would make this look like wood, since that's probably what it would have looked like anyway had I tried to make it nice and flat. Now I'm going to cut out my words using my Silhouette Cameo, and as you can see, it says "You drive crazy me," and that was just so that I could save on the vinyl, because the C in crazy fit up under the Y of you. So I'm going to cut these apart anyway to apply them, so it doesn't matter what order you put them in when you cut them out. So I'm just putting my transfer tape on top of the words after I've weeded it all out, and then cut them apart so that I can apply them to the pizza pan. And then once my words are ready, I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and I forgot to show you that at the beginning, and that's what I'm going to use to apply my car to the bottom portion of the pizza pan. And so I pour some out onto a little paper plate, and then using a makeup sponge from Dollar Tree, I'm going to apply that to the back of the car and then put it onto the pizza pan. It's got a shiny finish anyway from the lamination of the bag, so I didn't put any on top of the car. So you're kind of just using this as glue. And then I just used my squeegee to get any of the bubbles out and excess Mod Podge. Now, I had originally planned to use this red heart as the heart for the top of the car, but it didn't work out. And if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So it's showing here with it on there, but regardless, I'm going to use that as kind of my guide so that I can put the words around the heart and under the car. I overlapped the C onto the car, and I thought that was really cute just to kind of give it more interest. And then I put the words drive and me at an angle so that it just kind of, you're being driven crazy, I guess. And then I took 3 of the smaller wooden hearts and hot glued those to the side of the pan and on the car, just to make it look like it was the hearts coming out of the exhaust. And then I took 2 of the adhesive pearls and put those in the middle of the hubcaps, just as a little added detail. But I didn't want the wood finish, so I decided to paint the hearts with a little bit of the pink and white together, so it's a real light, faint pink, and just placed 2 of those on top of the car. That was in place of the big red one. I just didn't like the red with it. It was just too bright, and so I changed it out. And then I took my jute twine and glued it to the top of the hearts and then to the bottom of the car, and I just wrapped it around. You can lift up the car. The Mod Podge is not all the way dry, so it's easy to just kind of lift it up and then reapply it with the hot glue so that it's tucked under there and the hearts look like they're tied to the car. So then I took some more jute twine and I wrapped it around about 3 times on each side and put a heart in the middle of it. And then I'm going to take my heart ribbon and just make a sweet little bow to put onto the bottom portion of the hearts, and that just adds a little bit more color. And I found this tag and I just wrote with white pencil, colored pencil, just a little XOXO, and placed it on there, tucked underneath there. And so I didn't like that there wasn't enough color towards the top, so I took some of the pink burlap and just tied a knot in the middle. So it's not really a bow, it's just some added color, and then hot glued that underneath the twine bow that I made. And then I'm going to add some leaves from the lamb's ear just to give it a little greenery. So once I was done with it, I felt like the edge was just screaming for a border. So I took my black acrylic paint and went around the edges. This is a lot easier to do if you do it before you place everything on there, because I had to go in with a real fine tip brush to get around the little hearts. But I think it totally needed this edging, and here's how it came out. And I absolutely love it. It took me longer than what I had originally intended because I thought this was going to be pretty easy. I had it in my brain, but like I said, you just have to use trial and error, and I love how it ended up coming out. For our second project, I'm going to be using this glass dome that I got from Walmart. It was $14.97. If you don't want to pay that, you can totally use one of the Dollar Tree vases and turn it upside down and put it on the styrofoam circles. I'm going to be using these red glitter hearts from Dollar Tree, and I don't end up using the baby's breath. Some of these round styrofoam pieces that I used before for something else. And when you buy them new at the Dollar Tree, they come in a pack of 2, so you'll need both of them. And then some of this greenery moss stuff. I got this at Home Goods for $2.99, but Dollar Tree has this as well, and you can use whatever kind of moss you want. And then we'll be using the Silhouette Cameo again, and so I'm using the black vinyl, transfer tape, and weeding tools. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get my glass dome ready, and I'm going to measure or make an indentation into the styrofoam so that I can see about how large to make the styrofoam pieces, because I want it to obviously fit up inside of it. So I just cut around it, making it smaller as I went. And you probably want to make this a little bit smaller than I did, because the Excelsior that I used makes it wider, so the moss will make it wider. But it was a pretty tight fit, but I do want it to stay in place, so just be mindful of that. So now I'm going to glue those 2 pieces together, and then I'm going to start putting my moss on it, and I just put a bunch of hot glue down and pressed it into it. This takes a little while to get all of the coverage, because this moss is not as it doesn't cover as well as the stuff that you get from Dollar Tree, so you'll have an easier time covering the whole thing. And if you have the finger protectors, you definitely want to use them here so that you can push down and get into those little nooks and crannies. But you can see how these are just more of an individual moss texture, where it's not as green and filled like the other kind of moss. So I just recommend using the other kind. So I'm just pulling it apart and adding it to the styrofoam until it's completely covered. And then I'm going to give it a haircut just to get all of the strays out of the way and under control. And as I was playing with this, I was thinking it is the perfect material to use if you're making a nest. And so I started thinking about the spring DIYs coming up, and I can't wait to start those. So once I get my little garden ready, I'm gonna get my hearts ready, and I just cut the stems off using my wire cutters. And when you pull the leaves down, there was a little piece that kept it from coming off, so you have to cut those off as well. And so I just stripped them down and just left the stem. And I was going to put some different leaves on them, but I like the look of it just by itself for under the dome. So I placed them in a pattern where it kind of looks like a little bit of a balloon bouquet, and I'll end up adding one towards the end. But now I'm going to take my buffalo check ribbon, and I just made a single bow just with one loop on each side, and then I used a wire stem or a chenille stem to put that together, and then I dovetail the ends, but I'm going to use the excess fabric to fold in thirds and then glue that to the middle part of the bow so that you don't see the chenille stem in the middle. And the reason I'm not cutting off the chenille stem yet is because I'm going to use that to wrap around the little bundle of love. So once I got them the way that I wanted them, I took another little piece of extra scrap ribbon and just hot glued that to the back to cover that piece of chenille stem. You won't see this, I mean, it's a dome, so you can see all the way around it. So if you wanted to place it on a coffee table or something, you could see it. So it's probably not going to show, but just to give it a clean coverage or clean finish, I just covered that little piece up. I kind of realized right away that I wanted to add another heart, but I didn't think I had one. And then I did look around and I did find another one. So I'll just add that into the styrofoam as well. So as I'm editing this, I'm thinking looking for that heart reminded me so much of Matthew 18:12, where the shepherd leaves the 99 sheep to go look for the one lost one. So I don't know how I corresponded that with this heart, but I think it's because we just got back from a youth group retreat, and so scripture is heavy on my brain. So here's how it looks once I place the dome over everything. And I'm gonna now get ready to put my words. So I'm using my Silhouette Cameo. And there's a really good channel. It's called Silhouette School. I'll link that channel in the description box below. But there's one girl who teaches to draw lines across any of your decals that you're making so that it will cut in between the lines, and it makes it so much easier for weeding purposes. So I just set my auto blade. I had to put it on a higher force because my blade's kind of getting dull. So I'm going to cut that out and apply it to the glass. And I just laid it on a little bed of paper towels so it wouldn't roll around. And then using my squeegee, I just pushed it on and pulled off the transfer tape, and it was ready to go. So here it is, all done, and I love how this turned out. I have a hard time getting footage of something that is glass, and so the reflection, I'm always seeing myself, so I tried to hide myself. But I think this is the perfect addition to our Valentine's decor. In this case, I have it in a room that's got more of the shabby chic look, but at the same time, it kind of pulls it down and gives it a farmhouse look, rustic, and I just really love the hearts, and it stands out against the neutral background. So I hope you guys like this. For our final project, we're going to be using these glass frames again. They're more like signs. You've seen me use these a couple of times before. Some of the burlap ribbon with the lace in the middle, 2 stems of the pink hydrangeas, and then some acetone or nail polish remover with acetone. This came out of a big jug that Michael J. poured into a jar for me. And then we'll be using the Silhouette Cameo again, and so some black vinyl. A viewer needed to find the transfer tape, and I kept calling it transfer tape, but it's actually clear contact paper that looks like this when you find it at the Dollar Tree. And then, of course, our glue gun, scissors, some E6000 wire cutters, and your ruler to measure the surface so that we can make our decal. So the first thing we'll do is get our signs ready by taking off the white lettering from the back side of each of the signs. And to do that, you're just going to pour some acetone on to the back side, and it just magically comes up super quick, super easy, whereas before I was scraping it off, and you can still do that, but this is such an easy way to get it off. And it was actually a number of viewers that told me to use this method, and it made all the difference in the world, as you can see. Once I get both frames ready to go and all the wording off, I'm going to start taking apart my hydrangeas and have individual flowers go in between the two pieces of glass. And so to do this, I wanted to make sure that all of the backs of the flowers were pointing toward the back so that you could only see the fronts of the flowers. So there were some of them that had little pieces sticking out. So I just cut those off with scissors because they're just light plastic, and then mixed them around so that there were some dark ones and light ones, and then just filled it up about 3/4 of the way. And then once it's full and you don't have any of the petals hanging over the edge of the frame, I'm going to go back in with my E6000 first, and that's going to give it a permanent hold. And then just for the immediate hold, I'll go around the edges again with my hot glue. There's going to be some seepage, but that's not going to matter because we're going to be covering that with our ribbon that'll go all the way around as well. So now to hide that seam, I'm going to take my burlap ribbon and I just gave it one bead of glue right down the front, the first part, so that it can get me started and I get it in the place where it's perfectly even. And then I'm just going to go around a little bit at a time, and make sure you use your finger protectors for this part so that you can rub over it and it doesn't burn you. And just go a little bit at a time. And I like to use the wire that is at the edges of the ribbon, and it kind of just molds to the curve of each of the corners. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and I met in the middle at the very bottom, and this is flat enough that it will stay sitting perfectly straight and level even though the ribbon is on the bottom portion. And when I first started with the first part, I cut off a straight edge of the ribbon so that it would give it a nice clean edge. So now I'm going to measure the opening so that I can know how large to make my decal. And the opening is 10.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And the fonts I used, I will put them in the description box below. Can you hear my doggy? Sorry. So, yeah, but I did the decal in 2 separate parts. I did You're Still the One, and then the second part is the list of things that they're still the one of. And so I put that in second so that I could measure and they would be even. So after that, I'm going to add a couple more of the hydrangea flowers, and those are going to go on the outside just to give it a little more cutesy. And so my doggy. So I'm going to just glue those to the front on 2 sides. And then at the top left, I'm going to add a couple of hearts. One is the galvanized from our love signs that you see used so often. And I gave that a little coat of paint, not even a coat, just some dry brushing. And then one of the foam hearts from those foam wreaths, I just took the pink one, added some paint, and then hot glued those to the top left corner. And then it was done. So hopefully you get the sentiment of what this is about and the old school song that it's from, Shania Twain, for all the younger folks out there. And so I think it came out really well, and I love it. This is one of my husband and I's favorite songs. And so if you're listening, babe, you're still the one. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have a list of prayers that are from last Monday's postings, and I pray for all of you, and I know others are praying for you too. I'm so inspired and touched by all of the prayers and the positive feedback we've gotten in doing this on this channel. And I think this is the most important part. It may just seem like a crafting channel, and that's fine, but this is just so very important and makes my heart so happy, you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.